we've committed to, and we will close all those hotels in this Parliament. I know that your listeners, as you will too, Stig, will want to see it. They don't want to hear it from me, they want to see it. So
you're saying it will happen, just to be absolutely clear.
Yes, absolutely. We'll close all the hotels in this parliamentary term, absolutely no doubt.
With the war in Iran and the region, you might not have noticed the government has been trying to talk about its immigration policies all week. The Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, is launching further new conditions for migrants today. We can speak this morning to Labour's Home Office Minister, Alex Norris. Alex, morning to you.
Morning, Stig. Thanks for having me.
It's a great pleasure. There's lots of plans set out today. What are you going to remove support for those who can financially support themselves? Asylum seekers who can financially support themselves, you're going to remove support for them. What's the threshold that you're going to deem these people self-sufficient such that they don't need support from the state?
Well, first of all, Stig, thanks for having me this morning. We support 107,000 people at taxpayers' expense. That's an important thing to do to make sure that people who would be destitute aren't. But there are some people within that cohort who can work, who don't. And there are some people who have means that could use them for their support. I think it's right and fair, the fair balance with the British public, that they should be expected to contribute. As I say, if people can work, they should, and that kind of addresses the point there around what sort of thresholds.
But asylum seekers aren't allowed to work, are they, in this country?
Well, some are, if they've been waiting more than a year for their claim to be heard, but also some have work rights that relate to their original reason for entering the country. So there are some cases where they can, and it's right, I think, to have that specific circumstance-led kind of approach. Similarly, again, the vast majority of these people do follow the rules and wait patiently for the answer to their application, but some don't. And it's important in those cases that there are consequences if people don't follow the rules. So I think this is a good way of finding balance between the British taxpayer and those individuals.
How many of the 107,000 you're talking about then who will be deemed self-sufficient or have been found to be working illegally, who are not following the rules?
Well, I wouldn't want to be drawn ahead with this. There are no targets here. This is a circumstance-by-circumstance situation.
But you must have modelled it. How many people? You're talking about 107,000 people are currently waiting in the process. How many are going to be affected by this?
Well, we're looking at individual circumstances because everybody's circumstances will be different. This isn't about particularly trying to save money or having a target on the number of people, but it's about on a case-by-case basis having that fairness, and that's the approach.
Is it just chasing a headline then? You don't know what it's going to save. Presumably it'll cost a bit of money to do the monitoring. You want to sound tough on asylum, on inappropriate use of the asylum system. It doesn't sound like this has got any real meaning in the real world.
No, I don't think that's fair at all, Stig. I mean, I know that we have a particularly polarised debate on this issue. We have Reform and Nigel Farage, who wouldn't offer sanctuary to anybody. We have Zach Polanski and the Green Party, who want open borders. We're where the British people are, which is a system that provides sanctuary to those who need refuge and support whilst they're seeking that refuge, but that does it with fairness on the British taxpayer, so that when we do find people who've been working illegally, well, they're expected to use the proceeds to fund their support, or if they do have the ability to work, that they do. So,
but you don't know how many of that might be.
We will see as the weeks and months go on ahead, but I think that's the right balance.
You've got a pledge to stop using hotels to house asylum seekers by 2029. Will your new powers lead you to be able to evict people from hotels this year?
Well, we are reducing the supported population in hotels. We've got a third lower in hotels than there was at the peak a couple of years ago.
It's higher than when you took power in July 2024, though. In December, at the end of this last year, there were 30,000 odd asylum seekers in hotels. When you took power, there were 29,000. So it's actually gone up while you've been in power.
Well, that figure bumps along. It's about broadly comparable, but we are making very significant changes, as I've spoken about on the show before, including the use of large military sites. We've made huge step forwards in terms of the processing time of people's applications. We're now doing that better than when records have started.
But you haven't reduced the number of asylum seekers in hotels in the 20 months that you've been in power. That's true, isn't it?
No, but these things take time to bite. This is a challenging circumstance that we've inherited. The people traffickers that profit from this had a 6-year head start on us, but we are building a system that, as I say, balances that fairness to the British people, the humanity for those seeking sanctuary, and that's what's going to get us out of hotels, which we've committed to, and we absolutely will do.
So even though in the first 20 months of the year the number has gone up, what you want us to believe that by 2029 the number will go down to zero?
Well, as I say, we've committed to, and we will close all those hotels in this Parliament. I know that your listeners, as you will too, Stig, will want to see it. They don't want to hear it from me; they want to see it. So
you're saying it will happen, just to be absolutely clear.
Yes, absolutely. We'll close all the hotels in this parliamentary term. Absolutely, no doubt.
You mentioned reform and the Greens, though. I'm just interested. I don't know how open you want to be with me, but I'll give you the chance to answer straightforwardly. How much pressure is there within the party, bearing in mind what happened in Gorton and Denton, bearing in mind the rise of the Greens, which were ahead of you in the polls, in the last couple of polls that have come out? What pressure is there on you to not be as tough on the issue of asylum seekers and migration generally?
The only pressure on me as a minister, the only pressure on the Home Office and the government more generally is to deliver that fair system. As I say, we're offered two polarised, one nightmare with Nigel Farage, a fairy tale with Zach Polanski. For us, we want to deliver that system that the British public want, that they're confident that it's got order and control, that we know that those who are coming to seek sanctuary have a genuine protection need, but that it does meet those needs as we've done in the past as a country. So, that's the pressure I feel to deliver for the British public. My colleagues are in that place too. That's the manifesto we were elected on. So, I work a lot with them, and, I know they want us all to deliver.
Before we talk about the Middle East more generally, people in Iran clearly have a right to sanctuary. You would imagine they'd have a very good case that they are genuine refugees, people who might leave Iran. They might come across via Turkey, then be entering Europe. How welcome are Iranian refugees, in your view, in this country?
Well, Iranian refugees, of course, those with protection needs are made welcome. They have the chance to make their application. That gets assessed. If they're not successful, they get a chance to make an appeal. When they do get their refuge accepted, they then build their lives in Britain. And I have seen, in my own community and across the country, the way in which communities will rally around those people.
Have you modelled the possible number of Iranians that could come to this country as a result of this conflict?
I wouldn't run ahead there. So this is a very volatile situation that we're only in the early days of. So, that wouldn't be something that I would provide at this moment. But I do know that British people have stepped up when we needed to provide refuge. But the reality is, that we want to make sure we've got peace and stability in the Middle East, and that's the actions we're taking.
Let's talk about the situation in Iran. We didn't propose to send HMS Dragon to the Mediterranean until Tuesday this week. Tuesday, 4 days after the war started, 2 days after the attack on Cyprus. It has still not left the dock in Portsmouth. Do you accept that that is not an acceptable state of affairs?
No, I can't accept that, Stig. We've been building our defensive capabilities up in the region before the events of the last few days, building up whether it's radar systems, air defence systems, our F-35s, and the proof in that is the success they've had in protecting British interests and in disabling offensive threats. We are augmenting that. I think that's a matter of record with HMS Dragon, with the Wildcats that we're sending to the Eastern Med as well. We have built up in time to do those things, and that's why
you didn't build it up. But you've not built it up in time. I think this is I know that's what you've been told to say by the Ministry of Defence, no doubt. But the fact of the matter is, it was known for weeks and weeks and weeks that Trump was going to make a move in Iran, and no ship was deployed to the region. This is the first time in 50 years that there have been no British ships in the region. You were not prepared for what has taken place this week. That is true. That's the truth of the matter, isn't it?
No, that's not the truth of the matter, Stig. As I say, we have been in recent weeks building up our defensive capabilities. You've seen the impact that they've had, and now we're building on them. I can't accept your characterisation.
Can you explain then why there are no ships in the Middle East for the first time in half a century?
Well, I can't talk you through the operational way in which we set the defence of British interests. I think you can see the impact that they're having. And I think that will,
But for half a century, we felt that we needed to be prepared by having ships in that region. And for the first time this year, in half a century, we've not, and there is a major conflict happening in the region. And our allies, including the Cypriots, are saying Britain has been weak. They're saying it. People listening to this programme are saying it. People must be saying it to you as a minister of this government, that when it looks like a serious situation has happened in the Middle East, we have been unprepared. We have not sent ships to the region, which we could have done.
I mean, as I say, Stig, I just disagree, and I think the evidence from the work we have been able to do in the last few days shows that that's not right. I would never be in a position, as you know, no one would be in a position to talk about the operational configuration of our resources, but we can talk about its impact, which is clear and has been effective. So that work of building up the air defence, building up radar systems, having our brilliant F-35s there has been effective, and which I think shows that isn't quite right.
Can you confirm whether the Navy has any plans or any ability to escort commercial ships through the Straits of Hormuz?
I can't confirm that. That's not a conversation I've had with the Navy. We, of course, want to make sure that trade flows securely, but you wouldn't expect me to talk about operationally what that would look like.
But I'm just interested. We have the capability to do it, even if we wanted to. We have 6 destroyers. 3 are in deep maintenance. That means that they're not available at all, and one of them is heading slowly to the region as we speak. So I guess the question is, if we wanted to support commercial shipping, in your view, is Britain able to use the Navy to support commercial shipping in the area?
Stig, I can't run ahead of those operational points. What I can say is, you've heard clearly from the Prime Minister our resolution to protect British interests. We've demonstrated that in these recent days, and we'll continue to do so.
Bahrain has said the government has not visibly defended its own naval base in this country or the nation on whose soil it stands since the conflict with Iran began. It's not me making these criticisms, it's the allies in the area. You must be able to see that.
Yes, but I disagree with that. Again, I would say to yourself and to listeners, you've seen the impact that the defensive systems that we've built up in the last few weeks have had. Clearly that's been effective. We will look to augment that. We are doing so, in order to, protect that goal that I think we all want, which is the protection of British interests.
Alex Norris, thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Stig.
He is Labour's Home Office Minister there.